A really good chance. I think we're probably in a much better position now than at any time during the negotiation. That's something meaningful. And I don't think you could have gotten here without having to go through this process. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're probably in a stronger position now to do a deal, a fair deal for everybody. And so we're having very meaningful talks.
And welcome back to Newsmax Now. President Trump at the G7 summit in France sounding optimistic now about a trade deal with China. This as the trade war between the two countries continues to imperil global markets and economic stability. Trump says Chinese officials have been in contact with U.S. trade officials overnight, adding that the Chinese may want to return to the negotiating table sooner than later. And joining us now, columnist and author of the new book, Losing South Korea, Gordon Chang. Gordon, thanks for coming back on Newsmax Now. Great to talk to you as always.
Thank you, John.
All right, there have been some mixed messages, let's just say, out of the administration regarding this trade war. Trump said he was initially having second thoughts over the weekend. Then the White House had to come up and clear up what he was specifically talking about. We'll hear from Larry Kudlow in a second, but I want to get from you your take on these latest developments. You know, last Monday, both sides were talking about de-escalating the trade war. We had massive blow-ups at the end of last week with these new tariffs. Now it seems like things may be calming down again. Where are we going to be at the end of this week?
That I don't know, John, but I can tell you that on Friday, President Trump just unleashed holy terror on the Chinese. He intimidated them. He pushed them around. This was a really, really good development for us. And China just blinked, you know, by saying it wanted calm negotiations. It was saying essentially they're surrendering. So I think that we're in a very good position. You know, and I think Trump was actually telling the truth at that G7 clip that you played. We're in a stronger position now than we've ever been in these trade talks.
And you've mentioned many times about the fact that if there's one thing the Chinese government hates, it's uncertainty and these types of negotiations. So a lot of people are questioning the White House whether or not they actually talk with these trade officials, but this could be part of President Trump's kind of way of keeping the Chinese guessing on what's going on?
No, I actually think that there were discussions between high U.S. officials and their Chinese counterparts. For instance, Steven Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, was probably talking to China's chief negotiator, Le He. So, you know, I know there's some elements of the Chinese government that said these talks did not occur, but I believe that they did.
Right. Yeah. Who are you going to believe here, the U.S. government or the Chinese government? And that's the question we're facing with. All right. Let's talk about what's going on here a little bit more. We have a soundbite from White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow. He responded to the point we were just talking about, what kind of position the U.S. is in right now. Here's Kudlow on CNN's The State of the Union.
What he was intending to say is he always has second thoughts, and he actually had second thoughts about possibly a higher tariff response to China. So it was not to remove the tariff. He was thinking about a higher tariff response.
Yeah, there was a lot of to-do made about this point as well, Gordon, but what was your take on that?
Yeah, my take is that it was a very noisy room. I'm not sure that the president understood the first question. Matter of fact, there were two questions. The second one, I think, was necessary. You know, normally when the White House cleans up what President Trump says, I don't believe it. But this time, I think the cleanup was actually accurate.
Right.
That President Trump, first of all, didn't quite understand the first question. And second of all, if he would have done things differently, I think he probably would have imposed tariffs more than the 5 percentage points increases. So I think Kudlow and other people who have mentioned this were absolutely right.
All right. Well, China stopped buying U.S. agricultural products, a total 180 from their promise to buy a great deal of U.S. farm products they made just a few months ago. Now, did you think this was their plan all along? You've often talked about this. The Chinese have a long history of agreeing to these types of things and then not following through on them.
Yeah, and they didn't follow through, which I think showed some paralysis in the Chinese political system. But what Trump did at the G7 was really important. He got the Japanese to agree in principle to buy about $7 billion more in U.S. ag, especially corn. And that just took China's card away. You know, China had been trying to target the farm belt by not buying soy and other ag. And Trump just undercut them. I mean, the Japanese rode to the rescue.
Yep.
And the Chinese found that they no longer had anything to deal with. So they had to capitulate.
Mm-hmm. And this deal that President Trump reached with Shinzo Abe, I guess, in principle, to remove some of the tariffs on U.S. products being imported into Japan, that's going to have a big effect as well, correct?
Oh, yeah. They import about $14 billion now. They're going to import another $7 billion or so, according to this agreement, which hopefully will be signed at the sidelines of the UN General Assembly meeting next month in New York. This is really, really important, John. And also, it's not just Japan. We have the USMCA, the agreement with Canada and Mexico. You know, China dropped from being our biggest trade partner to number 3 in the first half of this year, behind both Mexico and Canada. And then, of course, you got the upcoming deal with Britain after Brexit. This is very good news for us.
Right. We'll be able just to reset the table when it comes to these international trade deals. President Trump talked a lot about this while he was running for office, getting better deals, and he appears to be doing just that. All right, let's talk with the last minute and a half we have left about the situation in Hong Kong. Protesters using Molotov cocktails against police, police deploying tear gas and water cannons, rubber bullets, and there was also, I guess, some gunfire last night, warning shots. Will Beijing be forced to turn to lethal force, Gordon?
I think Beijing right now is hamstrung. It's got multiple crises. It's got Hong Kong, trade war with the U.S., crumbling economy. I think that Xi Jinping has decided he can't deal with all three at the same time, so he's trying to sort of put us off to the side. Right now in Hong Kong, they've lost complete control. And that warning shot that was fired about 12 hours or so ago, that was critical because it changed opinion in Hong Kong. Just one shot was heard throughout the territory.
And some of the most dramatic video I've seen, again, we've talked often about this kind of erosion of democracy in Hong Kong. We saw protesters cutting down these facial recognition towers, which are used. Hong Kong officials said they plan to install about 400 more of these new towers. But we're seeing the Chinese surveillance state take hold in the protest against it, Gordon. And that's why we talk about Huawei and these companies and why they are so dangerous.
Yeah, well, certainly. The protesters in Hong Kong sent a message to Beijing, and that is, if you formally deploy the People's Armed Police or the People's Liberation Army, it's going to be a bloodbath for them. So this is not going to be a Tiananmen where you had the PLA slaughter citizens. This is going to be open warfare, and there's going to be high casualties on both sides. Those Molotov cocktails dropped from buildings on Chinese soldiers and armored personnel carriers are going to do great damage to the Chinese. I think the kids knew what they were doing by using those last night.
Yeah, the world is watching. Gordon Chang, great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for breaking news and give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, then share it with your friends. Remember, you can watch Newsmax TV live on YouTube. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.